Luke, how you doing?
Hello. Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, gotcha. Did you invite Ryan?
I sent the email.
Okay, cool. Oh, there he's coming. Hey,
Hi,
Ryan's
what's
in.
up?
Hold on.
We could see you.
Yep. Okay, I can hear you.
Ah, good. Good to see you.
What's up, guys?
Ryan, how you
Good. How you
How are
guys
you?
doing?
How's your quarantine week going?
Uh, it's not bad. Working from home is a little bit different for me. Do you guys usually work from home?
I don't. Um, I I can do a lot from home. Um,
Yes, same here. I usually kind of go half and half every week. I have an office here, as you can see. Um,
You have a
so
bookshelf.
I'm somewhat accustomed to working from home. It's not the greatest because my kids and wife are here, and sometimes that can be a distraction. But I've gotten pretty good at I shut my door and they kind of leave me alone. So
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just my wife, my cat right now, so it's not bad. There's just a lot more food available here than at the office. So it's a little tricky.
my problem is that the fridge has a bunch of alcohol in it, and so all day I'm like, I could just call it a day.
uh, happy hour
Yeah,
started
happy hour,
early.
11 o'clock.
Yeah.
So it's like calling me. It's calling me. So I'm like, no, not right now.
Yeah, my workday usually ends at 6. So that kind of gets a lot harder when you're at home and you're
Yeah,
just like, you know what, 4:30, 5 o'clock's hitting. I don't really want to wrap up that last hour and a half.
yeah. Ryan,
But
do you work for yourself, or you? How does that work exactly? Do you? I got everybody's frozen. Is that me?
um, okay, there we go. Yep, nice.
All right,
Um,
good. Yeah.
so I have been working with a company called Brightview for the past 2 years. Um, I've been working in landscape architecture for, I don't know, since 2012, I guess. Kind of when the recession's kind of opened up again, allowing me to get a normal job. Um, and so, yeah, Brightview is a design, build, maintain company, but it's kind of all over the country. So there's a possibility you may have seen the maintenance trucks up in Fort Collins or Windsor, Loveland, all over that area. Um, I have nothing really. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. When I say build, like they built the Apple II campus, or they renovated the Washington Monument Mall and whole thing. So pretty big construction scale. And then design work, it's like designing schools, um, multifamily, urban design, planning, all sorts of stuff. So I work in an office.
So what's the conversation like around? Because you know, I'm really trying to figure out what's going to happen economically moving forward. I'm
Right.
sure everybody's kind of thinking about. And what's the conversation like at your company? I mean, I imagine most of is a lot of probably a lot of bigger projects, not a lot of small, um, not a lot of families contracting you guys to do their front yard, that kind of thing.
Yeah, not a lot of residences like that. If it's a big enough price, we'll probably do it. Um, But let's see, a couple of my clients, some are with school districts. School districts are staying the same basically, because the only difference there is that kids aren't going to the school, but there were bond projects and everything that's still in motion. So they're just moving forward with that. It's probably easier for construction now that kids are out, right?
And all that money's already allotted and budgeted. It's less likely to be affected.
Yep. And my wife is a teacher, so I've been hearing that side of things as well, just of like, how are school districts planning for the future? What are they considering as optimistic or realistic? Are they going to go back to school ever this school year? Is it over? I heard Kansas just ended their school year, like they just called it, or they remote working, but they're not going back to the building.
PSD, I think they just changed it to middle of April.
Right.
That's
homeschooling. What's that?
That's statewide.
That's statewide. Oh, okay.
April 17th.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Shocked if that happened, if that actually happened. But
yeah, and that's what my wife is planning for. So you're right on that, Luke.
Yeah.
But so that's going normal. I mean, so I work in the design field more than the construction field. So design doesn't really stop. There are some construction teams that are slowed down, but the type of work is a little bit more isolated. So I don't see construction teams slowing down. It's just making sure their people are healthy and able to continue doing work like that. But I haven't really seen any slowdown in regards to development. Design studios have just basically been moving from their the many people offices to remote. So that's different in the process. And that means all the state reviews, municipal reviews, anything like that has to approve permits has to change. But it seems like everything is trying to adapt and move forward.
Yeah, it seems that way in our.
I know, Luke. I've had some trouble uploading the video from yesterday. I think I got it out, but I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if it's YouTube or bad internet connection or whatever. I'm trying to use Adobe Premiere which is overkill for just trimming off the first 30 seconds where it's like black. I've officially gone from concerned to very concerned, in the time since we talked.
It's a daily thing, man.
Yeah.
It's even hourly. It's crazy.
What'd you say, Ryan?
Concerned over the economics of it all, or?
Well, mostly about the economic side, but the direct concern is that's mostly what I'm concerned about. I mean, obviously this the virus could take center stage as far as what I'm concerned about, but it would have to get considerably worse for that to be the case. I know it is there. If your family's being affected directly, that becomes the main concern, but the economics of it affects everybody. So I was part of a webinar yesterday, and obviously the projections aren't good, but that's not that much of a surprise because we're due for a recession anyways. So you start to see recession. It's like, okay, like some people are going to lose their jobs, and there's going to be rising unemployment, wage stagnation, things like that, and that's pretty normal. But the question marks around this virus are there's just big question marks. And so it seemed like they kind of had two predictions. One prediction was it's going to get, like, basically they're saying this is either a short thing, like a real short thing, like maybe the things peak in April, and then we start to see quarter 3 and quarter 4 start to rebound. So there is a historical precedent apparently for that, with a 6-month recession that, and then you hit hard and then you bounce back. But they're basically saying it's either going to be that or it's going to be a prolonged thing. I don't necessarily understand what their reasoning was for this, but the whole medium thing was not a part of their projection for whatever reason. So if this is a longer term projection, it could get pretty bad. And I think some of what factored into that is a question of how does this end? So if we're doing all this social distancing, and that appears to be the right move as far as slowing everything down, but we may be in a position, I hope this isn't the case, but we may be in a position where this doesn't end until there is an actual vaccine. And that's going to be a long time. And so the concern is, okay, well, we slow everything down with this social distancing, and then at what point is there an exit strategy? At what point does Polis or Trump or whoever say, hey, let's all go back to normal life? And if they do that, then do we just start to see a rise or a spike in infection rate again? Now, there's always the chance that there's some sort of effective treatment that comes out. And I am hearing some kind of whispers in the bushes of different things, but I spend a lot of time on Twitter to get my news. And so it's, you get a lot of hot takes, and some of them are good. But most of the Twitter that I'm paying attention to is financial market Twitter. So it's a lot of smart people, but most of what they talk about I don't understand because there's so much jargon. So it's hard for me to figure out what's going on, and obviously it's hard for them to figure out what's going on. But yeah, I'm very. People are selling everything they're selling safe havens. So generally, if the stock market's not doing well, you start to see gold doing well, bonds doing well. Right now, everybody's selling everything. So it's crazy. You're seeing everything plummet. And so I don't really know what's going on. Yeah, I mean, my hope is that we really start to see a peak in cases in April. Everything starts to get better, but maybe we start to see some economic rebound. But if we need a vaccine before we can go back to normal, that's going to be a problem.
And that's coming from there's that, I talked about this yesterday with you, Joe, but there's that paper that was a bunch of doctors and scientists, I don't know, smart people in the UK put together a report for the government in the UK. And like a week ago, the UK was basically, their policy was like, yeah, let's just let it ride out, see what happens. And this paper got released, and they did a complete about face and changed all of their policies and are doing super strict social distancing, shutting things down, and it's also affecting U.S. policy. And the main point of that paper was that we're not going to be out of this until there's a vaccine. And they were saying their projection was like 18 months. And so that's affecting current decisions right now at the government level. And so whether or not that actually comes true, it's being acted upon as if it is true right now.
Well, and so then you've got yesterday, this stimulus package that they're talking about. That's I don't know, a lot of money, $2 trillion, something like that. It's a ton of money, and I guess the idea is if there's not some massive government intervention, we might see unemployment go to like 20% or something like that, which we haven't seen anything like that in 100 years.
That'd be devastating.
90 years or whatever. Uh, so yeah, I mean, and so the concern with that is once people start talking about 20% unemployment, that's when, you know, safe havens, for example, if you're losing everything in the stock market, it would make sense for you to pull your money out of the stock market and put it in mortgage-backed securities, because mortgage-backed securities are supposed to be safe. But if you got 20% unemployment and everybody stops paying their, or, you know, a large percentage of the population stops paying their mortgage, all of a sudden mortgage-backed securities aren't safe anymore. So maybe you start seeing people sell their mortgage-backed securities. So it's like nobody's buying assets. It's like everybody's just trying to hoard cash. So we're kind of in that toilet paper situation in the financial markets. And um and you, so if things aren't going to go, if everybody's going to be hoarding cash until we have a vaccine, uh it's going to be a long year.
Can you speak to why? Oh, sorry. I was going to say, can you speak to why they're all just focusing on cash? Is it just because that's the stable resource when everything's going up and down?
You know, and I have a pretty elementary understanding of it, but part of it has something to do with margin calls, and when stock prices go below a certain amount, there's some cash requirement. Part of it is that so, and I don't know how much this still factors in after what the Fed's done, but part of it is just a cash requirement. So banks need to have a certain amount of cash, and then, I mean, if you think about it on an individual level, if you're concerned about the financial market, about everything collapsing, and everybody runs to the bank, and the bank doesn't have, like, if you got $50,000 in a savings account and you go and you want to pull your money out, the bank might tell you, well, you can't. You're like, well, why? That's my money, and that's because they've lent that money out or used that to buy different financial instruments. So, you know, I don't understand exactly how it all factors in. I mean, I think I understand the fear part. Like, if you're looking at your assets and you're worried about them that they're all going to depreciate, and you can turn that into something liquid, I mean, that would seem like a reasonable thing to do.
Yeah, I think on a like, just kind of like a personal analogy, or I mean, just as kind of a real life thing that I'm dealing with right now, is like, I have a rental property. That's an investment. I have equity in that condo, but it's not really accessible. And, you know, say people start losing their jobs or whatever, my renters can't pay me. Suddenly I'm saddled with having to pay that mortgage potentially myself, and not being able to get that cash out, because, you know, if the real estate market starts to tank a little bit, like, I might lose the value. I might lose all my equity and then have to sell at a loss. Like, so there's all these things that are like, I'm a little nervous of, like, I've been debating, like, should I sell my condo right now, or like I could get good value for it, like, before everything goes to crap and I have no choice but to, like, get foreclosed on or whatever. I think that you take that kind of individual thing and you apply it to people who have lots of investments everywhere. You know, having cash on hand when everything falls apart is like your only, I don't know, it's like your only safety valve, basically, when there's no cash to be made.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a bank and you bought a mortgage, and you're earning a certain rate of return on that, like, let's say you're making $1,000 a month on that, and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, well, that I I need more, like right now, whatever amount of money right now, let's say $10,000 in my pocket is more valuable than $1,000 a month. So I'm going to hang on, rather than hanging on to this mortgage, I'm going to sell that mortgage. So you have a buyer, and that buyer says, okay, well, I'm willing to buy that mortgage from you, but I am concerned about the person who's supposed to be paying this mortgage, if they can make that mortgage payment. So now I'm not going to even pay you as much. The value of that goes down. And so the thing that spiral out of control, and it, particularly in the real estate market, is if mortgages are perceived to be risky, then banks and investors are not likely to invest in mortgages without a premium. And that premium would be higher interest rates. And so if interest rates go up, especially if they go up dramatically, then that's going to depress what people can pay for any given house. And it's going to discourage people from making real estate moves in general. And
well, I literally, so that client yesterday that I had that called you, just got an email from him, and they've decided to delay committing to a home.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that when I met him over the weekend, basically like kind of came right out to me. It was just like, everyone's got their opinions, but I think this whole thing's overblown.
Yeah.
5 days later, he's like, I'm not committing to buying a house now. And so it's like, there's the first, I don't know, for me, that's the first chip to fall. That's the first one that I've had that's been like, I'm not going to do this now. So,
yeah. So again, Ryan, one of the things that could be beneficial for an individual is if you're a smart investor and you're a wealthy investor, you have means, or at least access to cash, you have a tremendous opportunity, because your average person right now, if they want to buy a house, your average person has to borrow, $300,000 or $400,000 at a certain rate of return, or at a certain interest rate to buy a house. And let's say interest rates were to shoot up, that becomes more and more cost prohibitive until on one end of the extreme, no one can afford to buy a house, or at least can justify buying a house. But if you're an investor and you've got $1 million in cash, you can take advantage of the lack of buyers. That's my daughter's back there. She's scare me. She's been trying to scare me since I've been working at home. She got me nervous. So that's one reason to have a bunch of cash. And so if you can imagine cash as possible before the stock market bottoms out, before the real estate market bottoms out, before whatever hypothetical market bottoms out, while everyone else is screaming and crying, you're gobbling up a bunch of assets, and then eventually things turn around. Even if it's only 6 months, eventually things turn around and you've increased your overall wealth position dramatically relative to everybody else.
That was actually one reason why I was interested in your guys' video, just because my wife and I were about 30. I think we're actually similar to a client that you described, where we have double income, no kids, 30, has been working for decade or so. And so we're at a position where we're looking at trying to keep our current condo and then buying our next property to where we'll eventually start a family and stuff like that. And trying to figure out is now a good time or a bad time. And it sounds like as we've been watching, it's all over the place like you guys are describing. So, and the fact that I know you guys, I listened through that video, so it's fun to hear.
Well, I appreciate that somebody listened through.
You said nobody's going to watch this thing. I was like, shoot, I should just hang up right now.
I mean, it's for me, it was like, well, we talked for an hour and a half, and like, does anyone really want to sit and listen to us for that long?
Yeah, but
Only your
even as
mom.
you were saying that, I was like, what else? Like, eventually you're gonna get like Netflix. I mean, your options are limited. There's just not as much going on. It's so funny when it's just, man, this is just such an interesting thing. I woke up in the middle of the night last night just worried, and I was like, man, what am I gonna do to get myself to go back to sleep? And so I put on a Paul Vanderklay video or a YouTube video or no podcast because I listen to his podcasts. And you know, there's just and we talked about this a little bit in the first video, but if I'm in my right mind and I'm not worried about money and worried about, you know, what's going to happen, you know, I mean, if it's similar to you, if people stop buying and selling houses and rates shoot up and people aren't refinancing, then, you know, I'm not going to have any income. So it's like, well, what if I'm in my right mind, or if I'm in my wrong mind, I'm scared. And I'm thinking about all the things that could go wrong. If I'm in my right mind, I'm thinking about, okay, like what is happening right now? What, you know, this is a time, an opportunity for a reshuffling or a reorientation of values or priorities, or and there's, yeah, I mean, there's opportunity anytime there's instability or there's opportunity to grow as a person, to grow as a family. I mean, I tried, like this morning, I woke up and I was like, what do I need to be? Because I got all freaked out yesterday. It was super weird. I got all like, couldn't think straight, and I couldn't focus on anything. And then part of it was that the mortgage-backed securities got just whipped, like taken out behind the shed, just whipped. So I saw it, was like, oh no. Like, this isn't supposed to be happening. You know, I mean, up until this point, if it's been funny, I was telling somebody the other day that I work with, because he was lamenting all the money he was losing in the stock market. And I was like, don't you realize, like, if the stock market is getting beat up, that's good for us. Like, it's, you know, you kind of, in my career, you can kind of hedge the stock market. So if people are losing money in the stock market, interest rates are getting better, and people are refinancing. So, you know, you lose 20% in the stock market, but you offset that in income. And then it's awesome because you're offsetting that in income, and then you can buy stocks low and you set yourself in a good position. But if the stock market is hemorrhaging and mortgage-backed securities are being sold off, you're like, now I'm just like everybody else.
Yeah.
So, you know, where you're, so anyways, so I was like, also throughout the day, I was also like, I am not thinking about this right. Like, my head is in a bad space. I haven't exercised in way too long. I mean, I've gotten to where I can take for granted that I get a lot of exercise, and I haven't been exercising because my gym's closed, and I haven't been eating well. My routines are broken. So it's like, what do I need to have going on in my head right now? And so I woke up this morning and was like, all right, I have to be committed to staying optimistic and staying hopeful and positive, and I need to be confident that if I'm in that headspace, I'm gonna be better off. And so I'm trying to stay in that space today. You know, and then immediately I start to think, well, I probably wouldn't have to declare. I could probably find a way to make it work out financially. If, like, let's just say I just lost my income. I should theoretically be able to rent out my house. You know, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily be forced to sell.
Yeah, maybe.
Are you saying your current residence or
my current residence? Yeah, because when I start to think about, like, what's worst case scenario, and I haven't had to think this way in a long time since I started in this career. where I'm like, all right, well, what's my exit strategy if, the worst case financial scenario? So I've got my house in the south end of town that's rented. I'm hoping that those people can continue to make their rent payment. Their income that I would imagine is going to be pretty heavily affected by this
Right.
service industry type thing. It's a luxury type thing. So they seem like pretty frugal people, and I wouldn't be surprised if they had a lot of savings. So that's kind of my hope there. And then yeah,
there's something whoa. What is this?
there's a 40-minute limit normally. Apparently they got rid of it. It's probably because everybody's
doing this.
Everyone's on Zoom.
doing this.
Literally, yeah.
Thank you, Zoom.
Yeah, for real. Shout out.
This is brought to you by Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. Hey, that's how we make money.
Ooh.
Start promoting Zoom.
We just
They
gotta get
don't
some
even-
YouTube ads. Who do you
Yeah, for
get
real.
more people to watch this?
Well,
You guys just need viral videos of your kids walking in on you,
Yeah.
like doing professional things.
Ryan, did you see my daughter walk in with her hazmat suit on?
Yeah, that was hilarious.
So, Joe, I've been thinking along these lines for a couple weeks, actually, and not in a panicky way. I've never really gotten to the point like where you were talking about having a hard time thinking clearly and stuff. I've been reading a blog that tends to be kind of the writer tends to be a little alarmist.
Is that Dreer?
Yeah, it's Dreer. But he's been 100% right about everything that's happened for the last month. And so like I've been kind of mentally and emotionally and spiritually kind of ready for all of this a little bit. And so I've already kind of gone through the motions of like what happens if I just lose my income and my renters lose their income and like all these different things. And so I have like contingencies that I've already kind of worked through. Some other things that are just potential things that could happen. I'm not banking on any of this because they're going to have consequences in the future. But like Italy has suspended or deferred or canceled mortgage payments. I'm not sure exactly which one it is. I know that there's talks about that happening here. Some of the other things that occur that we've just never had to deal with because we've never been in a disaster. But I think that this will qualify. So like during Katrina, for example, there were loans, super low interest loans offered to landlords, like a disaster relief because of what happened with their homes or their tenants losing income, things like that. So like that kind of stuff potentially is going to be available to us in order to mitigate some of the damage that we are going to incur during all of this. So I think there's probably going to be some options. We just got to kind of be looking for them. I don't know I don't know if there's going to be income limits on stuff like this, and like, are we going to be able to claim unemployment? I don't know. I might have been able to claim unemployment last year when I went 6 months without closing, but I don't know. But I think that there will be avenues to take in order to kind of get through this, and that's where my mindset is like I just my goal is just to make it through whatever happens with both of my houses still. Like I just, whether if I lose all my income,
Bernie Sanders over here.
I mean, it is what it is, man. Like it's I talked to my client or my tenants yesterday and just kind of let them know like where my head's at and what I'm thinking about, and for us to kind of have open communication with each other about what what income is, what's happening with our incomes. And I just kind of assured them like I'm not going to make any like panicky snap decisions about what to do with that condo, but that the economic climate may present itself as such that I need to sell it, and I'm just going to be very open with them about that, and ask them to just be thinking about kind of plan B's and what they're going to do if they start, if they can't pay rent and all that kind of stuff. So maybe that was the wrong move, but I don't want to put them in a bad place. And we're kind of all in it. Like, I imagine that if I am no longer having income, like if the real estate market just kind of stops having activity, like there's going to be like other people are going to be losing their jobs and all that kind of, like, we're all going to be kind of in the same boat. So I really don't want to just act completely in self-interest in all of this.
Well, that again, I mean, just recalls if I'm in the right headspace, trial and struggle. I mean, it's so good for your soul, and it's so purifying in a lot of ways. I mean, just everything's going good for everybody. It's just everybody's thriving. It doesn't mean anything if you're doing well. Like, this is such a great opportunity to love your family and to be kind to people. And I don't know. I've seen little things that have made me pretty optimistic. I mean, I know it sounds dumb, but even like Zoom, hey, together, like, we're gonna let you watch this video for free.
Yeah.
Zoom. I mean, it's like, all right, well, what if it's just such a great opportunity to just being nice to people when everything's great just doesn't mean anything.
And I think like a part of that is this temporary versus long-term mindset that you guys are trying to figure out. Like, is this something that's going to be done in April? Is this something that's going to be done in a year and a half? And, I even caught myself in this week of trying to work remotely. I mean, Joe, you kind of mentioned you lost your routine. Like, you kind of lost that thing that helps bring stability. And I've lost that too. I found myself like waking up a little bit later, definitely not having the same morning routine that I normally would when I go off to work. I like working through that routine. And I'd be curious, like, how I can shift that mindset to a more present mindset, not where it's like, oh, this is only like, it's good, like vacation thing. Cause my wife is a teacher. So she's on literally spring break right now. So our family dynamic changes when she's home, cause she gets up at 4:30 and she leaves for work at 6, and it's insane. But now she's here and I'm here. And so that's instantly changed things. But I think that the piece where I've struggled, and I've been trying to observe people do it, is what does being present to a new normal look like in this moment? Because, like you're saying, like, I could just be holed up in my little office here because I work all day, and then, I have 3 hours after work to lounge about the house, I guess. Or what's it mean to go outside? What's it mean to actually like interface with people more in a healthy way? I mean, like, the thing you guys are doing with Zoom is good, but like, I've even asked myself, like, hey, can we have like another couple friends over, and just like do something normal? Like, they're healthy, we're healthy. Like, can they just come over and can we like hang out and have a dinner night, like in the same way you would with on a normal basis? And I think trying to figure out what that new normal is going to take some time, getting out of our little shell.
Yeah, and I think, man, it's a breaking down of the old narratives, and you start to see things a little differently. And And I'm like, all right, so what does it look like to reorient what I'm chasing after. And so much the narrative, and Luke, I'm sure, being in the world, the real estate world, you can, what I'm talking about. But there's a tremendous amount of pressure to make a lot of money, and to live a pretty lavish lifestyle. And like we all need to retire when we're 45 and have $200,000 in passive income so that we can, I don't know. It's just a part of the culture.
Just do whatever you want, basically. Like,
what's that?
Not be, like, have nothing, like, not be inhibited by financial limits. Like, you just like, or time that you have to commit to making money. Like, it's just like, get everything in passive income and then go just like do what feels good all the time, travel and whatever.
And so I'm not super, just temperamentally, I'm not super susceptible to that kind of pressure, but just the world that I've been in has definitely influenced me that way a lot. So you go from, financial goals become exponential. Like, oh, I have to make a ridiculous amount of money. It's not enough to make twice the amount of money that I thought. When I got into this business, I thought, I had certain goals and certain expectations, and I've exceeded those, but I have not reached a place of peace. And so it's like, all right, well, what does it look like to kind of like what you're saying, Ryan? Like yesterday, I've got really cool neighbors. We just moved. We just really lucked out with this neighborhood that we bought in, and everybody somebody had like a little fire pit, and like one of those portable fire pits, and they set it out in the cul-de-sac, and we all just stood out there, and nobody was high-fiving, and like we weren't grilling and sharing germs even, but it was just cool just to and nothing's going on. And I think I left I think I did have my phone, I think, but it was in my pocket. I didn't pull it out. It's the kids are running around, and it doesn't cost any money. And all of a sudden, as I'm thinking through, okay, what do I do if my income goes down? You start thinking about all the things you can let go of. And all of a sudden I'm back to thinking like, I don't need to make that much money. Like it's not, or, you still need to make money, but it just like all of a sudden I'm not as easily seduced by the narrative of get really rich really fast and get to do whatever you want and travel and do all sorts of expensive things. And it's like, what I'm back to like, okay, I'm at home and that's really cool. Like I get to see my kids, and like, why don't I do this more often? Why don't I work from home? Like, why do I feel like I have to work so hard and work these ridiculous hours and make all these sacrifices? Like, why don't I just, I don't know. Like, why don't I just take a deep breath, be more present? It's just a good opportunity to have that reorientation. And then you start to think, okay, well, the fact that I'm thinking about this makes me have to, and then there's a rhythm to the way that the universe works. And it's like, okay, we need these kinds of things to happen. And not to say that it's a good thing that all these people are dying of this virus, but we, these types of things, we need opportunities to reorient. You can't just have exponential growth. It's not good for people. It's not good for the way that people think. We need economic turmoil. We need events in our lives that make us go, oh, okay, I need to take a breath. What's going on? How have I been seeing things incorrectly? We need jubilee. That's what we need.
Well, here's a really interesting thing that I've been thinking about and just experiencing in a very real way. So we're in Lent, and like in our church, like it's a very, it's serious. It's like the biggest event of the year basically. And so for the last 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks or whatever, we've been fasting and like, focusing on like trying to be charitable and like praying more and all that kind of stuff. Like it's a season that happens every year. And Lent came about after Christianity emerged from its first couple hundred years of just being persecuted all the time. And the church basically decided and saw that, like, now that we're not being persecuted, we need like an annual kind of reorienting of like getting rid of, kind of minimizing our appetites and our possessions and all that kind of stuff to reorient ourselves back to like the reality of the kingdom of God and like what it is to live in that. And so I've really experienced, I mean, we're almost in like a forced Lent right now, as a nation, world, as humanity, basically. And like for me, like we've already been minimizing and like eating less and eating very plain and whatever. And so like I almost feel like we were already like living in like a quarantine. It just has been it's been very kind of interesting, like spiritually for me. And now I'm kind of like, oh well, we'll probably just keep living this way for a long time. It's just like it's like the new reality almost. But I guess you just made me think about that and talking about new routines and like thinking different. Like, I don't know, like weeks ago I was thinking like, oh, it'd be really cool. Like I really want like a new, like the newer Toyota Camrys, like they're real slick, like they're cool looking cars, and like, oh, we're going to get a new van, or whatever, that doesn't sound super like,
I haven't talked to
you or whatever.
I haven't talked to you in 10 years. And so this is what's on Luke's mind.
But now, like, I literally like don't care. Like, I'm like, oh, I have 2 cars and they work. Like,
yeah.
It's just like it isn't even on my mind anymore. Like, or going on vacations or whatever. Speaking of not talking to me in 10 years, here's my.
Oh, hey.
This is my daughter, Dea.
Hi, Dea.
His name's Ryan. Can you say hi, Ryan? No, you're gonna be shy.
Are you in your pajamas?
she's being super shy. Yeah, but it's all right. We can hear you guys. But yeah, I sort of lost my train of thought there, but it's just, I guess, overall, like, just kind of playing into your point that you were making, Joe, like, and for you too, Ryan, it's just like different routines and different mindsets, and like just suddenly different things are important, and it's the things that have always been important, but we just forget, and we go astray, and we worry about making money and going on vacations, and like I can't even, I was like thinking about like, oh, it'd be so cool to go on vacation at the, down to Mexico or whatever, like you guys did, like without the kids, and I'm just like, I mean, I don't know if that's gonna, like, is that even gonna be like feasible? Like, who cares? Like, I don't even care.
You got a credit card, don't you? You just go.
Oh God!
Just hit that button.
Oh no!
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I'm kind of curious on a personal level, Joe. You were just describing a narrative, and I know there's like 7 minutes left. Of retire at 45, have the passive income all set up. This like which. There's some hustle to that for sure, to get it all put together. Was that your narrative? Like, was that your goal before? Was that like
No, not really. But that's sort of that's the narrative where the pressure comes from. So
right.
Come up with some other, my narrative was probably, it was less income driven, and it was more, I mean, income was part of it, but it was more like, performance driven, volume driven, like how much business am I doing, how successful am I, and then the financial perks were, I had that less explicit. So I've been experimenting with goals over the last few years, and I've had a lot of success in achieving these relative big goals. But one of the things that has really humbled me is realizing that achieving, all there's something off in my psyche where and what it tells me is there's something wrong with the way that I'm seeing the world. But I'll say, all right, well, I have this massive goal. Let's say in January I have this massive goal that seems like an unachievable goal, and if I achieve that goal, that would be just the greatest thing, the most impossible thing that I could possibly think of. And then I achieve that goal, and it literally gives me no joy, no satisfaction. I immediately just move the goalposts and go from, 12 months earlier, if this would have happened, it would have been, glory to God, everything is good. Wow, that's amazing. And then you hit the goal, and then it's okay. Well, that is now the new floor, and
Right.
and I ought to be, and there's no, that's not impressive at all. That gives me no, and so at the same time, and then you get that hedonic treadmill. You get your brain just. I'm like, something is wrong. Like, this isn't the way that I'm supposed to be thinking. And then it just gains momentum and gains speed. And I throw the weight of who I am into this new goal that's even bigger and more dramatic. And there's no like, hey, I don't know. It's not a healthy approach. And
it sounds a lot like, so I just started this book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Where did I hear about that?
I think it's going around the circuit, I'm definitely not a trendsetter. I'm the one following the waves. But I'm finding the book at the right time because, actually I feel like I set like a little brief history of me over the past few years. I set a lot of goals and then I burnt out. And so I put too much pressure on myself and then I broke. And then now I'm working my way back up slowly, setting minor goals. But the whole problem of goal setting is not problem of goal setting, but a part of that is in this ruthless elimination of hurry, I just read the history of hurry, which is basically showing way back when, talks about when the sundial was invented. And even back then, somebody said this was I think it was Plato or something like that. It's this is going to be an issue because we have instantly regimented ourselves based off of this pattern that we can measure off of now. And so once you go there, you go to the clocks that were done by monks who basically could help count how many times, how do we count 7 times a prayer a day? And so that helped them kind of orient that. Then you put a clock tower inside a city. So instantly the city has become regulated by time and mechanism. And you have the printing press. And so all of a sudden this regimentation happens in which, back in the monk times, it was 11 hours of sleep a day kind of thing. And no wonder they wake up for prayer at 4:30 in the morning. It's because they actually went to bed at 7:30 at night.
Yeah, because the sun went down.
But they're monks. They don't have kids either. So, that's something else. But, and then you take it all the way to the point where the next biggest influence was the iPhone, and if you look at the hit, you're talking about goal setting, where I set this point and then this point and then this point. I mean, what is it but the American system where we said, oh, we're going to make the washing machine. Now we're going to have a ton of free time. Well, actually, the washing machine helps me set the post here because now I can do more stuff. Oh, you know what? We got the iPhone. Now I have more free time because I don't have to go on my computer. I don't have to go to home to get on the phone. I can be present with my friends. Well, actually, now my productivity has even gone higher. And so that goal, if your goal is about becoming more productive to produce more, I don't think you'll ever stop.
No, it's awful. And I mean, that burnout thing that you mentioned, oh my gosh. I mean, I've been on a career development trajectory that has been fast. I mean, I've approached this business in a really, really aggressive way, and I've experienced a lot of success really quickly. And I've been miserable through most of it.
Hmm.
And then there's this fear and this anxiety. It's just so funny. I mean, it's just none of it makes any sense. I mean, that word burnout is, yeah. I mean, look, I've made some changes in the last 3 or 4 months that are pretty dramatic changes that are supposed to help with my circumstances, but I'm still in that same frenzied state in my head all the time, and I'm like, this is not sustainable. And so in the context of burnout, it's like, okay, where's that fine line? Like, you take your foot off the gas, or okay, you don't want to take your foot off the gas because you still want to grow as a person. You still want to, you want to increase your income if you can. You want to continue to challenge yourself. But where's the fine line? Like, I only know up until this point in life, and this has been, I think, a big thing for me to learn this year, with the help of a recession. It's not, hey, I've either got my pedal to the metal or my foot's off the gas. Like, it's got to be one of those two things. And it's, obviously that's not, there are more options.
Well, that's not even how you drive, right? Like, you can't drive that.
Some people drive that way.
But kind of.
Until they get into an accident or blow their engine up.
You hit corners, or you go up hills or down hills or whatever. Like, you have to adjust, and there's optimal speeds for all of those things, right? You can't just floor through a curvy mountain road.
It reminds me of a metaphor I had. So in 2012, I had a quarter life crisis because of the recession, and jobs were kind of weird, and so I bought a motorcycle. I sold a couple paintings, I got some extra cash, and I bought a crappy motorcycle, and I was like, I'm going to go to Seattle on this thing. And as I was prepping for this trip, somebody told me, Ryan, a motorcycle is not getting you from point A to point B. Like, if you want that kind of vehicle, you get something cozy and comfy in which you can turn the AC on and you can, like, sit and relax and turn on the music. A motorcycle is take it easy, enjoy the scenery, enjoy what you're doing, enjoy the ride. And I guess it would almost be kind of like, what kind of car are you driving? I mean, it sounds like the pedal to the metal, gas constantly on, is not the motorcycle way, because it's like, I mean, how do what is it, side stops on roads, like, tourist traps and all that stuff, the big ball of yarn to take your kids at and all that stuff, like, can you stop and, like, stop your road trip? Or are you the family where it's like, we got point A to point B, kids get in the car, we're just going to grind this thing out? And
yeah, that's huge too. I mean, I've been recognizing like how quickly like last year just flew by. I mean, it was like I blinked and it was gone. And it's because I've been viewing everything that's been happening at work, and my whole life has been consumed by work. I mean, the vast majority of my consciousness, and I've been viewing each year as a means to an end. And I mean, some of that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Like, okay, well, all that matters is that I hit a certain volume goal by the end of the year. So every day is just in service to that future thing. And then the worst thing is, it would be best if you could maybe you could justify it if you could hit that future day, and then you go, now's the time to celebrate because we've worked towards this. But then get there, and then you just go, okay, well, all of those days were in service of this day, and this day is in service of some future day.
Right.
So then the year goes by. My kids are a year older, so that's one less year that I have with them, and it's gone. Like, I don't remember it. And so I'm like, this is not a good life. I mean, this is not the way you're supposed to live. And I feel fortunate that I'm 32 and I'm 3 years into my career, and I'm realizing that, because I could definitely see the number of people that are in their 60s and they've got grandkids, and they start to go, oh shoot, I just wasted 30 years of my life working and
Right.
squandered opportunity to have. I mean, you've only got a number of years. Your time is the most precious resource that you have, and so you just trade it all the time for money. I mean, that's what I've been doing. Just trade your life for money and for professional success, and then it's gone. And I mean, your money, I could trash my financial situation, and it could be turned around in, whatever. Except student loans, those don't go anywhere.
It's it's interesting to see, to be able to see that, and to start recognizing, like, because like in history, like there's people, if like you had a farm or whatever, like you had to work, like, and that there was you didn't have an option. But like especially in what we're doing, Joe, like we have a lot of choices to make about like how much we do or don't do. Like we're not on someone else's schedule necessarily. And so it can really start to feel like, oh, I'm putting all this time in. Do I need to be? Is it healthy? Like, do we need all of this extra money and blah, blah, blah? It's like, again, right now, it feels like the answer is no, clearly. I don't know. Does that change in a year or two when things start to kind of go back to normal, or like?
I can promise you won't have the same perspective when things get busy again. Like I definitely know that about myself. I have like these brief glimpses of clarity, kind of like the way you described that fire, Joe, where you're like, all the lights turned off in the neighborhood and we stepped out in the cul-de-sac and we talked. The phone was down. That literally sounded like a Hallmark moment right there, man. There's a Hallmark movie coming out in 2021 of that.
Yeah.
The busy business guy gets present. It was beautiful.
I mean, seriously, I'm not just making fun of you. It's probably gonna start happening. People are gonna get to know their neighbors. Like, isn't that the thing that we always talk about? And like, that was something I remember from living in Nicaragua. It was like, you just had access to, people were around, and like
people were way more present, way more.
And I wanted that when we came back here, but like there was no fighting our culture on, like, it was like me, like, I want to get to know everyone, and everyone else, like, I don't want to.
Well, you remember when we came back, that was we came back because we missed the advent of the speaking of what Ryan was saying about the iPhone, we missed the advent of the smartphone. And so when we got back, we had to jump into it, because I think it was like 8 or 9 months into the time when or 6 months into the time when everybody had a smartphone. And I remember getting an iPhone like the day I got back, and it was like, iPhone on the toilet, iPhone before bed, iPhone when I woke up, like,
yeah,
playing Angry Birds because Angry Birds was big.
Oh God.
Yeah. There was no fighting those cultural trends. Like that I realized that real fast, and now it feels like, I don't know, we're being forced to slow down and reset. And the cost is, I think, the cost is going to be high, unfortunately. But I've seen, like, Joe, like when you talk about like things the positive things and the hope and all of this, well, it's not like materially, this is going to be rough and people are going to die and like all that, like, but for our souls, for our spirit, like for our human connection with other people, like I think at least during this, it's going to be something that a lot of people have never even experienced. Like, haven't experienced like really knowing your neighbors, or just getting out in the cul-de-sac and having a fire with a bunch of strangers that hopefully won't be strangers in a couple weeks, or like that stuff is gonna be life changing, I think, for a lot of us. And it's again my neighbor who, she's in her 60s and lives by herself, telling me the other day that her daughter has been calling her every day, and like that has never happened before. Like that kind of stuff that's the stuff that means something. Like we're getting reminded of what actually matters.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, fellas, I have to head off and hop in to work. I really enjoyed this. Thank you for letting me sneak in here, man.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks for jumping in. It was great connecting with you.
Yeah. I'll keep watching your videos for sure.
Cool.
Man. All right.
Cool.
Good seeing you, Alan.
All right. See you guys.
See you, Joe.